Part 38. Martial Arts, Become Invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 371. Now, 62 years later, the situation has turned. The descendants of King Yuping led their men to attack the palace, and they also killed everyone on sight. Just as the royal family had blood-bathed the Xiao family, now the Xiao family has blood-bathed the royal family. Seeing the royal blood who were being killed one after another, and hearing the mournful wails and desperate screams coming from his ears, Xiao Hung felt a deep sense of regret in his heart. If the royal family had not insisted on annihilating the Xiao family, there would not have been the disaster of genocide today. Brother Emperor, you are wrong. You have harmed the Xiao royal family and all the Xiao clan members. The dying Xiao Hung thought of the deceased Emperor Liang of the previous generation, who was his imperial brother and the culprit who ordered the destruction of Prince Yuping's entire clan. Unfortunately, the previous emperor of Liang had died long ago, and his bones had melted. Xiao Hung's scolding could not be heard. Xiao Tian saw the regret and prayer in Xiao Hung's eyes. He did not feel soft at all, but instead felt angry. If I had known today, why bother in the beginning? Xiao Tian roared angrily, raised his foot and stepped down hard, directly crushing Xiao Hung's head. At this point, the number one swordsman in Daliang, the seven-sword king Xiao Hung, fell. Grandpa, father, mother, uncle, second uncle, third uncle, I have avenged you. Killing Xiao Hung, Xiao Tian felt extremely happy, and tears fell from the corners of his eyes. Unfortunately, in the midst of the pleasure, Xiao Tian also felt extremely sad. There was no winner in this war between the Xiao family and the Xiao royal family. 24 Although they are about to destroy the Xiao royal family and achieve the final victory, it is impossible for the dead people of the Xiao family to come back to life after all. Those thousands of dead souls are dead after all. The Yuping Wang family did not rebel at all back then. In my mind, if the royal family can let go of their suspicions, just like Xiao Yi trusted Xiao Zhan more than 100 years ago, it is not impossible for the royal family and the Xiao family to work together as monarchs and ministers to recreate the glory of Daliang. Just because the royal family is afraid of the great achievements of the Yuping Wang family, so he repeatedly suppressed him, even slandering King Yuping for treason, and sent troops to bloodbath the whole family of King Yuping. Not only did he kill thousands of innocent souls of King Yuping, but he also killed all the members of the Xiao royal family, and even killed those who died in this war. Countless soldiers and civilians. In this war started due to unfounded suspicion, there is no winner, everyone is a loser. Prince. The prince is dead. Oops, the prince is dead, run away. Seeing the seven swords King Xiao Hung being killed, the imperial guards and vassal kings in the palace were all frightened and began to flee. The fastest escaping were the Xiao vassal kings. They knew that Xiao Hung was dead. It's their turn. Want to leave? Xiao Zhantian, who was standing in the void, raised his brows, and a chill flashed in his eyes. With a thought in his mind, countless sword energy appeared around him. The sword energy was like small fish swimming in the void, and it was also the most terrifying killer in the world. Trick. Go. Xiao Zhantian thought, and the sword energy suddenly shot out, piercing the chests of each Xiao family member. The two great masters of Bodhi Temple and a great general of Daliang also fled, but they could not escape Xiao Zhan Heaven's pursuit. The sword energy pierced the sky and took their heads directly from their necks. Don't want. Spare your life. I can be loyal to you. The first two sentences were shouted by the two great monks of Bodhi Temple. Obviously, in the face of death, even monks are afraid. The last sentence was shouted by the great master and general of the imperial court. He didn't want to die, he still had endless time. He did not enjoy the glory and wealth. The king of seven swords died, and Daliang was about to die, but he did not want to be buried with Daliang. He wanted to beg Xiao Zhantian for a chance of survival. He felt that he was a great master, and as long as he begged for mercy, Xiao Zhantian should have spared him. Who would leave a great master-level warrior unused? Unfortunately, he thought of Xiao Zhantian wrongly, and the two great monks of Bodhi Temple also thought of Xiao Zhantian wrongly. The sword energy was flying across the sky. It passed by and instantly penetrated the eyebrows of the three people. The heads of the three great masters exploded like watermelons, and red and white things shot into the sky and scattered all over the ground. Kill and bloodbath the palace, leaving no one behind. Xiao Zhantian levitated in the air and gave an indifferent order. Yes. The Man-Elephant King, Han Rufeng, the owner of Tianqian Building, and many Kishalu killers all echoed and responded, and then launched a ruthless cleansing of the palace. After Xiao Zhantian killed more than half of the palace forbidden troops with one sword, he flew out of the palace and came to the street. Assist the Kishalu killers on the street to resist the city guard. It is better to say it is to resist than to massacre. After Xiao Zhantian killed Gangxiang's incarnation of heaven and man, the outcome of the palace was decided. And in another on one side, outside Shangjing city, Xiao Zhantian's true form was fighting with Gangxiang's true form. The power and aftermath of the battle between heavenly beings and human beings were much more terrifying than the battle of incarnations. Xiao Zhantian used his fists, palms and legs together, occasionally bursting out with sword energy. The moves were deadly. Gangxiang protected his body with a Buddhist golden body, and with his palms and fists out, he faced Xiao Zhantian face to face. The speed of their moves was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye they had already fought dozens or hundreds of enemies. Move. A stream of true energy flew out and exploded around the two of them. Each aftermath could easily kill the powerful Grandmaster. Bang! Xiao Zhantian ripped apart the sky and Pei Yun with his palm and hit Gangxiang in the chest, beating Gangxiang. Fly out! Gangxiang flew back hundreds of meters, smashing several towering trees before finally stopping. Xiao Zhantian said, Gangxiang, your incarnation has been chopped off, and I have no chance of winning. It's not too late to surrender now, I can let Bodhi Temple go. Xiao Zhantian disturbed Gangxiang's mind with words, but Gangxiang remained indifferent. Xiao Zhantian, needless to say these high-sounding words, I already know what kind of person you are. Stop talking nonsense and see the real deal. After saying that, Gangxiang swung his palm and hit Xiao Zhantian on the head. Although Gangxiang had only met Xiao Zhantian a few times, he already knew Xiao Zhantian's acting style very well. Xiao Zhantian was an unscrupulous person who always wanted to achieve his goals. A person who can use any means to achieve his goals. He doesn't make promises, doesn't care about using despicable means, and cares more about face. He would never dare to say anything like this. I believe it. Xiao Zhantian said well that by surrendering now, Bodhi Temple can be spared. But Gangxiang knows very well that as long as Xiao Zhantian takes action in the future, he will settle old accounts with Bodhi Temple. Promise. In Xiao Zhantian's opinion, it is nonsense. So surrendering now is tantamount to seeking death. Besides, Gangxiang's pride and Bodhi Temple's pride will not allow him to bow his head. Bodhi Temple has inherited its prestige for hundreds of years and cannot be cut off in his hands. Tiangang Buddha Seal. Just like shooting out a palm, Heiran's true energy turned into Buddha light all over the sky, and the power of heaven and earth gathered to form a huge swastika Buddha seal, which was suppressed towards Xiao Zhantian. The swastika Buddha seal's golden light shined, as if it could universally save all sentient beings and eliminate the murderous intention in people's hearts. If you were a great master, it would really be possible for you to be transformed. It's a pity that I am not a great master. The killing intention of this deity is endless. Even if the Buddha from heaven comes, he cannot save this deity. 3 points of returning vitality are extremely urgent. Xiao Zhantian raised his luck and pointed out with one finger. Finger shadows all over the sky burst out from Xiao Zhantian's body and rushed towards the swastika Buddha seal. The finger shadows all over the sky shot out, and in an instant, the swastika Buddha seal was pierced. The swastika Buddha seal was pierced. It exploded with a bang, erupting into a huge fireball, and the true energy poured out, rushing in all directions. Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang were the first to bear the brunt, and were attacked by the true energy. Xiao Zhantian was protected by a wall of true energy all over his body. Non-invading, unmoving. Gang Xiang flew back and waved his monk's robe, destroying the energy. He looked up at the palm of his right hand and found a blood hole in the palm, blood trickling out and dripping into the sky. Skin 033 opened the flesh. In the bloody hole, there was a finger force rushing around, trying to invade the meridians and rush into his body. Gang Xiang used his true energy to suppress the finger force, waved his palm and slapped it out, forcing the finger force out of the body. What a wonderful martial art that combines the three skills of fists, palms and legs to have such power. Gang Xiang has extraordinary eyesight, and he can naturally see that Xiao Zhantian's three-point return to vitality is not a new magical skill, but a special martial art that combines the three skills of fist, palm and leg. The three-point return to vitality combines the long legs of the wind god, the fierceness of the cloud-dispelling palm and the cold internal force of the Tianchuang fist, the three Yuan flow, endless, and infinite power. This is the first time in his life that he has seen such a strange magical power. This person is too strong and must use all his strength to have a chance of winning. Gang Xiang's eyes sharpened, the murderous intention in his heart suddenly surged, and the aura on his body also increased several times. Oh! Has the momentum changed? If you have any tricks, feel free to use them. Xiao Zhantian noticed the change in Gang Xiang's aura, and was not afraid at all. Instead, his fighting spirit was high. Three-point return to vitality was deployed again, forming a power grid to cover himself. This is the body-protecting magical skill of three-point return to vitality. Can be used for defense, or can be combined into a deadly killing move. 3/3 of the divine finger makes 3/3 of the world. Xiao Zhantian raised his hand and pointed, and the force of his finger suddenly shot out of the air, locked on the Gang Xiang's body and shot it. The power of any one finger is enough to open mountains and cut rivers, and kill the strongest master in an instant. Bodhi seal sentient beings worship Buddha. Gang Xiang soars into the sky, clasping his hands in mid-air, closing his eyes tightly, and reciting Buddhist scriptures. Sanskrit sounds fill the sky, and endless Buddha light shines, forming countless phantoms of Buddha. Behind Gang Xiang is a huge statue hundreds of meters high. Buddha, and the phantoms of Buddha around him all bowed to him from a distance. Suddenly, Buddha opened his eyes suddenly. There was no trace of compassion in his eyes, only a fierce murderous intention. Buddha raised his hand and crushed it down with a palm. Crush all the finger strength of the 3/3 of the world. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 372. After the Buddha's palm crushed his fingers, his power remained unabated, and he slapped Xiao Zhantian heavily. Well done, there's a chance. 10,000 Buddhas Chao Zone. Xiao Zhantian directly used the 9th form of Tathagata Divine Palm, 10,000 Buddhas chasing the sect. There were also Buddha lights shining all over the sky, and countless Buddha shadows appeared in the void. The huge Buddha behind Xiao Zhantian raised his hundreds of arms, the palms shot out of the air. There was a loud bang, the palms collided, and Gang Xiang's killing move was immediately broken. The remaining palm power was like a tsunami wave, rushing towards Gang Xiang. Facing the killing move, Gang Xiang with a solemn look on his face, he raised his right palm again without dodge. Bodhi seal Brahma holy palm. The huge Buddha's palm fell from the sky, like a huge mountain falling, covering the sky and the sun. Invisible huge pressure enveloped thousands of meters in radius, and the earth instantly sunk a layer. Xiao Zhantian roared, doubling the skill in his hand, and Gang Xiang face to face. Boom! 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 The killing moves collided, and the earth shook and the mountains shook in an instant, and the sun and moon eclipsed. The shadow of the Buddha in the sky instantly disappeared without a trace, and the endless Sanskrit sounds also stopped abruptly. Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang both retreated, and a huge crack suddenly opened in the ground between them. The crack extended toward the north and south, and was bottomless, as if dividing the earth into two halves. The battle between Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang was not only they turned a forest into ruins, and even dug ravines into the earth, completely changing the terrain. Whoosh! Whoosh! The aftermath surged wildly, and the storm swept across. Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang were wrapped up in the true energy, and they both disappeared. Invisible. The noise of the battle between heaven and man was too great. People from hundreds of miles around the capital city could hear the two people fighting, but no one dared to come and watch the battle. Only two people had the courage to hide in the dark and watch the battle. One person, he is a middle-aged scholar with a graceful manner, and he is the protector of the demon sect, Feng Amoshenyi. Beside Feng Amoshenyi, there is a man with an aura as deep as the sea. It is the Suanzun of the demon sect, Shang Guan'ao. The battle between Daliang and Zhou begins, and the demon sect the fishermen benefited. This time even Suanzun Shang Guan'ao personally took action. The two of them hid in the dark and watched from a distance. Shang Guan'ao had no expression on his face, not knowing what he was thinking. Feng Amoshenyi had a look of fear on his face. Color. Looking at the fierce fight between Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang, Feng Amo felt extremely frightened and panicked. This was the first time in his life that he was so frightened since he broke through to the Grand Master realm. The battle between heaven and man is really terrifying. Every move of the two of them combines the power of heaven and earth, and the power is indescribable. Even if he explodes with all his strength, uses full combat power, and uses the blood-stained secret method, the power is not as powerful as the two of them. Is this the battle between heaven and man? As expected, the powerful celestial beings are already extraordinary and are no longer in the same world as the ordinary warriors. This is the first time Feng Amo has seen the battle between heaven and man with his own eyes. The scene of the strong men fighting together with heaven and man is thousands of times more terrifying than he imagined. Without heaven and man, he can never imagine what heaven and man have. How powerful! Feng Amo also has ambitions, longing to break through the shackles one day and break through the realm of unity between man and nature. Now that he has seen the power of Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang with his own eyes, the ambition in his heart has been magnified 1,000 times. He wants to go to heaven. The path of man. Even if his body is broken into pieces and his body is not intact, he must sacrifice everything to walk on the path of heaven and man. That terrifying power is the dream state of all warriors. Once you have seen it with your own eyes, you will never forget it or let it go. Whoosh! 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 Feng Amo suddenly had one or two eyes blood red, gasping for air, his pupils dilated. At this moment he was on the verge of becoming possessed. Wake up! Shang Guan'ao roared, and the sound exploded in Feng Mo's mind. Feng Amo came to his senses instantly and broke out in a cold sweat. After regaining his senses, Feng Amo was frightened and quickly thanked Shang Guan'ao. "Thank you, Lord Xian." Shang Guan'ao said calmly, "Your realm is too low. Although you can gain enlightenment by watching the battle between heaven and man, you may also become possessed by evil spirits. It's better to retreat first." Yes. Although Feng Amo didn't want to leave, when he thought of the dangerous situation just now, he didn't dare to stay here any longer and flew away immediately. At this point, the only person watching the battle was Suanzun Shang Guan'ao. Shang Guan'ao looked at the two people who were fighting fiercely with cold eyes. His face was expressionless, and a cold light flashed in the depths of his pupils from time to time. He already had murderous intentions in his heart. Xiao Zhantian, Nanggongye, is the enemy of his holy religion, whether it is for revenge, or he does not want to see Xiao Zhantian control the beam, he must eradicate the great enemy Xiao Zhantian for the holy religion. If Xiao Zhantian is allowed to successfully control Daliang and found the country and proclaim himself emperor, at that time, the holy religion will face the encirclement and suppression of the two great powers of Dazhu and Daliang, and the Shangguan clan will said it was a catastrophe. Let's fight. Fight fiercely. It's best to fight so that both sides will be injured and die together. Daliang does not need a new emperor, and the heavenly beings of Bodhi Temple deserve to die. Shang Guan'ao hid in the dark, sitting on the mountain watching the tiger fight, hoping in his heart that Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang would die together. Boom! In the center of the battlefield, the wind and clouds were torn apart. Xiao Zhantian emerged from the sky, turned into a sword light and shot towards Gang Xiang. Gang Xiang increased his power and energy, and used the Vajra-glazed body to evolve the Vajra Dharma appearance to defend himself. Although Gang Xiang's Vajra Dharma appearance had been incarnated by Xiao Zhantian broke through it once, but the Vajra-glazed body is still the secret skill of Bodhi Temple and the strongest body protecting magical skill. In terms of defensive power, this is the strongest martial art that Gang Xiang has mastered. Facing Xiao Zhantian's killing move, he can only use this. The incarnation of the Vajradharma form looks up to the sky and roars. He raises his hand and hits the sword light with his palm, shattering the sword light. But there is no figure of Xiao Zhantian in the sword light. Xiao Zhantian has appeared in the Vajradharma appearance without knowing when. The head of the incarnation. Gang Xiang, your strength is too weak, today is the day you die. Vulcan is angry. Xiao Zhantian let out a roar. In an instant, the color of the sky and the earth changed, and wind and clouds swept across. The mighty power of the world surged in, forming a whirlpool visible to the naked eye. After the power of the world merged with the true essence, it began to burn, and finally formed a huge statue hundreds of meters tall. Fire God's Dharma. This move is the fire god's wrath from the four symbols of heaven's will. Seeing Xiao Zhan Angel's fire god's wrath, Xianzun Shang Guan'ao's pupils shrinking while watching the battle, and his face suddenly became angry and murderous. He was the first to see the fire god. The person with the power of anger is naturally Shang Guan'ao. Before Xiao Zhantian could break through the realm of the unity of heaven and man, he relied on the four symbols of heaven's will to defeat his incarnation of heaven and man. If it weren't for the incarnation of heaven and man, he could travel thousands of times in an instant. At that time, his incarnation of heaven and man was about to be killed by Xiao Zhantian. Thinking of that battle, Shang Guan'ao still feels extremely ashamed and angry. Thinking that he, a master of the integration of heaven and man, was actually killed by a half-step heaven. It was hard for him to accept the slap in the face. Now seeing the wrath of the god of fire was like opening up the scars in his heart. Shang Guan'ao was naturally extremely angry. Roar! The palm was slapped on the face of Gang Xiang Vajra. This palm was not only the power of the fire god's wrath, but also integrated the divine power of the 13 dragons and 13 elephants of the full-level dragon elephant Prajna Kung Fu, as well as the strongest killing power of the cloud-dispelling palm. Zhao Zhou was bleak. The three movements combined into one, plus the power of heaven and earth, the power could not be described in words. After slapping with the palm, the feet of the Vajradharma appearance's incarnation suddenly exploded, and the roar was endless. Boom! 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 The earth exploded and dented inch by inch. The Vajradharma appearance was forcibly dwarfed by the Vulcan Dharma appearance. The Vajradharma appearance was nearly 100 meters deep into the earth. Inside the Vajradharma appearance, the elephant was so violent that it spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were splitting, and he roared loudly. The Vajradharma appearance stretched his arms to the sky, clenched his fists, and hit the Vulcan Dharma appearance heavily. With a loud bang, the Vulcan Dharma appearance was deflected by the Vajradharma appearance, and he rolled over and fell to the ground. However, these two punches were neither painful nor itchy to Xiao Zhantian, and could not break the defense at all. On the other hand, the incarnation of the Vajradharma, although there was no scar on the surface, seemed to be intact. But the force of Xiao Zhantian's palm just now had already through the incarnation of the Vajradharma. The power is in Gangxiang's body. Because of this, Gangxiang will spit out snow when it is injured. Xiao Zhantian's palm force is so fierce and domineering that it shakes Gangxiang's internal organs and almost shifts them, and the blood in his body is unstable. The breath is extremely messy. Roar. The incarnation of the Vajradharma roared, tearing the earth apart, jumping out of the ground, and leaping into the air. When Xiao Zhantian saw this, with a thought in his mind, the wrath of the god of fire instantly turned into the wrath of the wind, Limo's god. The sea of flames turned into the wrath of the god. The strong wind, the wind god's dharma form instantly took shape, carried the strong wind and turned into a giant tornado, rushing towards the incarnation of the Vajradharma form in the sky. The angry god of wind howls. Wind god's wrath is the weakest move among the four symbols of heaven's will, but it is the most suitable move for wind god's legs. Xiao Zhantian used wind god's fury to perform wind god's leg's strongest killing move, divine wind howl, and its power suddenly increased. Several times or even 10 times. Boom. 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 Countless leg shadows hit the chest of the Vajradharma appearance like a violent storm, instantly kicking hundreds of meters of Vajradharma appearance into the air. The high sky altar. Balls of true energy exploded on the chest of the Vajradharma appearance, leaving cracks on the surface of the Vajradharma appearance. Finally, in the tornado, it turned into a huge leg shadow and kicked hard on the Vajradharma appearance. This is the real the divine wind howled. With a loud roar, the incarnation of the Vajradharma, which was hundreds of meters high, exploded and was kicked alive by Xiao Zhantian. The strongest defensive magical power of the Bodhi temple, the Vajra-glazed body, was defeated by Xiao Zhantian for the second time. Exploded from the front. Poof. The incarnation of the Vajradharma was destroyed. Gangxiang's middle door opened wide, and he was immediately hit by the howling force of the divine wind. Gangxiang raised his head and spat out a mouthful of blood, and his whole body flew out like a meteorite. Hit a hill hard. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 373. With a bang, the hill was suddenly smashed into rubble by Gangxiang. After landing, Gangxiang rolled continuously for hundreds of meters before finally stopping. Cough cough cough. Among the ruins, Gangxiang was vomiting blood, his face was as pale as paper, and his breath was extremely weak. It was a minor injury before, but this time, he was seriously injured. Gangxiang's internal organs were displaced by Xiao Zhantian's kick, and his internal organs were torn apart. He didn't know how many meridians and bones were broken. An ordinary person would have died thousands of times. Fortunately, the powerful man who unites nature and man has strong vitality, and Gangxiang mobilized the power of heaven and earth in time to protect his heart, so he was able to save his life. However, such a serious injury cannot be healed in just a few decades. Besides, Xiao Zhantian would not give him a chance to recover from his injuries. Call. At this moment, Gangxiang suddenly felt that his eyesight went dark, the sunlight above his head disappeared, and he was shrouded in a shadow. Looking up suddenly, he saw the incarnation of the god of wind appearing above his head. Gangxiang, suffer death. Xiao Zhantian roared loudly, and the incarnation of the god of wind descended from the sky and kicked him in the head. Xiao Zhantian was decisive in killing, and his offensive killing moves were like waves, continuous and continuous. Naturally, he would not give Gang Xiang any chance to breathe. It was not easy. If Gang Xiang is seriously injured, of course he must take advantage of the victory to pursue him and kill him completely to eliminate future troubles. Gang Xiang was seriously injured and did not dare to take Xiao Zhantian's killing move. He endured the severe pain in his body, improved his strength and luck, and transformed into he dodged aside for a ray of Buddha's light. Boom! Xiao Zhantian kicked down, and kicked out a giant kick that was more than 50 meters deep. Looking to the left, he saw a ray of Buddha's light running away crazily. It's Gang Xiang. Gang Xiang no longer dares to fight Xiao Zhantian anymore. He knows that if he continues to fight, he will definitely die, so he chooses to run away. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall. He knows that he cannot defeat him, but he insists on staying and dying. That is not what smart people do. Although Gang Xiang has his own pride, he will not insist on seeking death. Running away when it is time to run away is what smart people do. A master who combines nature and man, his speed is still very high when running away fast. Because of this, it is 10 times and 100 times more difficult to kill a heavenly being than to defeat one. If the light kung fu is not far superior to the opponent's, it is almost impossible to kill a heavenly being. However, Xiao Zhantian not only punches, his leg and sword skills are superb, and his lightness skills are also top-notch. He just wanted to run away, but it was just a daydream. Phew! With a thought in his mind, Xiao Zhantian dispersed the wind god's physical form. A strong wind swept around him, and Xiao Zhantian instantly turned into a strong wind and rushed toward him. He shot away with the Gang Xiang. The wind god kick was both a leg skill and a light skill. In addition, Xiao Zhantian secretly used the lightning divine walking technique and the sword control technique, making his speed even faster. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Zhantian had already appeared not far behind Gang Xiang. Gang Xiang, you are so greedy for life and afraid of death, are you worthy of being a senior monk of Bodhi Temple? If you have the ability, I'll leave you behind and fight to the death. You run away in the face of a battle and are greedy for life and afraid of death. Could it be that all the monks in Bodhi Temple are like you, greedy for life and afraid of death? If that's the case, then you have really ruined Bodhi Temple's centuries-old reputation. Xiao Zhantian roared while chasing. CFCC. The sound spread in all directions under the influence of the true energy, and spread hundreds of miles. At this moment, everyone within 100 miles heard Xiao Zhantian's roar. Many warriors also knew the outcome of the battle between heaven and man. Xiao Zhantian won, and Gang Xiang, the eminent monk of Bodhi Temple, was defeated. Not only was he defeated, but he was also running away, being chased madly by Xiao Zhantian. This word spread throughout the world. Bodhi Temple, the prestige has dropped to freezing point, and hundreds of years of glory have been lost in one fell swoop. Xiao Zhantian, you are so hateful. Gang Xiang looked back at the moon and gritted his teeth with hatred when he saw Xiao Zhantian chasing after him. Of course he knew that Xiao Zhantian was using the topic to take advantage of the situation and took the opportunity to suppress the Bodhi Temple and trample on the centuries-old glory of the Bodhi Temple. He also wanted to mess with his mind with words, forcing him to turn around and fight Xiao Zhantian. But Gang Xiang is not a reckless idiot, he will not seek death, he will not stop, and his speed will not decrease but increase. Stop running, you can't run away. Xiao Zhantian walked against the wind, and his speed increased several times. Under the moonlit night, he saw two streams of light, one behind the other, traveling rapidly through the dark night. In the blink of an eye, the two of them flew out hundreds of times. Inside, the face of Gang Xiang, who was running wildly, suddenly changed. He immediately stopped and flew towards the left. And at the moment he flew by, a giant sword shadow fell from the sky and stabbed the place where he was just now. The sword energy struck. Passed by, a huge bottomless ravine tore the earth apart. If Gangxiang hadn't dodged in time, he would have been shattered to pieces. Xiao Zhantian descended from the sky, surrounded by invisible sword energy, looking down at Gangxiang, his eyes filled with killing. Meaning, I said, you can't run away. When it comes to fists, palms and legs, you are no match for me, and when it comes to Qinggong, you are even less likely to be my match. The only thing waiting for you is death. Gangxiang covered his chest, blood spurted from his mouth and nose, and said with a gloomy expression, Xiao Zhantian, do you really want to kill everyone? Xiao Zhantian shook his head slightly and sneered, at this time, you can still ask such a stupid question. It seems that I think highly of you. You are not only a waste, but also a fool. Okay, now that you have finished saying your last words, it's time to hit the road. After the words fell, Xiao Zhantian gently raised his right hand, and his fingers formed into sword fingers, aiming at Gangxiang. Boom! At the critical moment, a murderous intention erupted from the top of Xiao Zhantian's head. A huge palm fell from the sky, he slapped the heavenly spirit cap towards him heavily. The huge palm covered the sky and the sun, with a diameter of more than 300 meters, carrying infinite pressure and murderous intent. This palm was caught off guard, but Xiao Zhantian's expression did not change, as if he had expected it. With a finger pointing towards the sky, a giant sword energy rose from the sky, immediately piercing the giant palm and tearing apart the high-altitude clouds. This sword was clearly the 19th sword of the Holy Spirit's sword technique. The ruthless sword energy exploded, causing the temperature to rise over a kilometer in radius. Falling suddenly. Gangxiang was a little stunned when he saw this sudden change, but after being stunned for a moment, he reacted and turned into a black shadow and fled far behind. Xiao Zhantian looked back and saw Gangxiang falling into a tree. On the tree tops, and to his left, a tyrannical shadow stood in the air. The man was wearing black clothes inlaid with gold, gleaming beads, a purple gold crown on his head, and a robe that touched the floor. His face looked very young, as if he was around 30 years old. He was an old acquaintance, and Xiao Zhantian recognized him at a glance. I thought it was who it was, but it turned out to be Shang Guan'ao, Suanzun of the demon sect. When did the demon cult Suanzun also learn to hide his head and show his tail, and attacked from behind? What happened? Demon sect Suanzun feels uncomfortable and wants to change his profession to be a killer. Xiao Zhantian looked at Shang Guan'ao and sneered. Humph, Xiao Zhantian, you can speak harshly now, I will kill you right away. Shang Guan'ao snorted coldly and said, when we get to the palace of hell, let's see if your mouth can still be so tough. Shang Guan'ao originally didn't want to show up so soon. He wanted to wait until Xiao Zhantian and Gangxiang were both injured and show up, then he would be able to deal with Xiao Zhantian and Gangxiang without any effort. But he didn't expect that Gangxiang he was such a waste, and he was seriously injured by Xiao Zhantian in just a short time. He was also chased until he had no way to the sky and no way to the earth. The battle between the two was simply a one-sided crushing force. If he hadn't appeared, Gangxiang will undoubtedly die, and his plan to make a profit as a fisherman will fail. So Shang Guan'ao has to appear. Although Gangxiang is a bit useless, he is a heavenly being after all. As long as he is alive, he can exert his power to threaten Xiao. The power of Zhantian. The two of them have a better chance of winning if they join forces. Shang Guan'ao watched the battle between Xiao Zhantian and Gangxiang from beginning to end. Although he didn't want to admit it in his heart, he had to admit that Xiao Zhantian's strength was indeed too strong. Gangxiang will be defeated not because he is weak, but because Xiao Zhantian is too strong. However, after not seeing each other for a few months, Xiao Zhantian's skill has exceeded Shang Guanao's imagination. With such talent, Let Shang Guanao also felt envious and jealous. In the past, he always thought that his apprentice Shang Guanwudao's martial arts talent was the best in the world. He was worthy of the title of the strongest genius in 200 years. But compared with Xiao Zhantian, Shang Guanwudao was also inferior. More than one step ahead. At this moment, Shang Guanao was even more convinced that Xiao Zhantian must be the enemy of his holy religion. Such an extremely talented and powerful enemy, who also has a deep hatred for the holy religion, will surely perish in the future if he does not try his best to eradicate it. It was his Shang Guan clan. Shang Guanao's heart boiled with murderous intent, and his eyes were extremely cold, even colder than thousand-year-old ice. In an instant, Shang Guanao's mind was racing and he thought of various countermeasures. Beside him, Gang Xiang looked at Shang Guanao, put his hands together and performed a Buddhist salute and said, "Thank you so much, Shang Guan, for your help. I will write this down, and I will definitely repay you someday." Although Gang Xiang has never met Shang Guanao, it is obvious that he mentioned the name Shang Guanao. If someone came to save him, he would naturally say thank you. Although he is still wary of Shang Guanao in his heart. There is no such thing as a free lunch, as any 3-year-old knows. Gang Xiang would not think that Shang Guanao was drawing his sword to help when there was an injustice on the road. It was the first time that he and Shang Guanao met, and they didn't have that kind of friendship. Shang Guanao was willing to help him, so he must have his own purpose. Because of this, Gang Xiang did not stand very close to Shang Guanao and was now on guard. Shang Guanao saw the vigilance in Gang Xiang's eyes, but he didn't take it seriously. He showed a smile and said, "Master Gang Xiang is serious. I also came to kill Xiao Zhantian. It was just a coincidence that I saved the master." Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 374. Seeing the two of them singing in harmony, Xiao Zhantian's lips curved into a sneer. When did the Buddhist Bodhi Temple and the demon sect team up? It must be that the Bodhi Temple and the demon sect have already colluded, right? Gang Xiang, you are indeed a complete hypocrite. You don't even have the dignity to survive in order to survive, and you actually beg for mercy from the demon section. Bodhi Temple has been passed down for hundreds of years and has been honored for hundreds of years. It has been completely ruined by a useless monk like you. If the ancestors of Bodhi Temple knew about it, they would be so angry that they would crawl out of their coffins. Oh no, I almost forgot. The monks of Bodhi Temple will be cremated after they die. They don't have corpses and they can't crawl out even if they want to. You loser, what a blessing. Xiao Zhantian sarcastically, with a playful smile, every word was like a knife, the knife was inserted into Gang Xiang's heart. Gang Xiang was so angry that his orifices were filled with smoke, and with the anger attacking his heart, he spurted out another mouthful of blood. What Xiao Zhantian said just now, not only he was stimulating Gang Xiang with words, and also used the Chao Shen mysterious technique in the max-level soul transferring technique. If Gang Xiang was at its peak, this move would be like a breeze blowing on his face, and would have no effect at all. But at this moment, Gang Xiang was seriously injured, and his will was no longer as strong as it was in his heyday. In addition, what Xiao Zhantian said was true. So Xiao Zhantian's demonic voice filled his ears, reaching deep into Gang Xiang's heart, arousing his emotions. The devil in the heart. Bodhi Temple is the leader of the righteous path of Daliang, but he is in company with the devils of the demon section. Although it is an extraordinary method to save his life, it does not conform to the essentials of the righteous path of Bodhi Temple. For a moment, Gang Xiang's eyes were blood red, and he was possessed. A sign. When Shang Guanao saw this, he shouted loudly, "Don't listen to his nonsense here, keep your heart and wake up." Shangwen's proud voice was like thunder, exploding in Gangxiang's ears, finally bringing Gangxiang back to his senses. Gangxiang grunted, and a stream of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Although he woke up, his internal organs were immediately injured, and his face turned pale again. Point. Xiao Zhantian, you are really hateful. Shang Guan'ao looked directly at Xiao Zhantian, his eyes ferocious, full of murderous intent. He had known that Xiao Zhantian was not only strong in martial arts, but also good at speaking. He would use no curse words to curse people, and he would poke people's hearts with every word. This was the most commonly used technique. It's killing people and killing people's hearts. But I didn't expect that after not seeing each other for a while, Xiao Zhantian not only greatly improved his skills, but also more than doubled his skills with words. With just a few words, he was so confused that he almost went crazy. This, if you put your words in the court, you might be able to argue with the ministers and make countless civil servants in the world commit suicide in shame and anger. Xiao Zhantian, I put my words here. As long as I am here today, you cannot kill Master Gangxiang. It's not too late to retreat now, otherwise today next year will be your Memorial Day. Shang Guan'ao raised his luck, and his luxurious robes were windless. His whole body was shrouded in true energy, and his murderous intention was looming. Xiao Zhantian's face was expressionless, and his cold eyes swept over the two of them, and he said calmly, killing one is killing, killing is kill both of them too. No matter how many Tujuagu comes, they will still be waste after all. You two go together, I will not let you two be alone on the road to hell. Arrogant. Shang Guan'ao's eyes were about to burst. He roared, raised his hand and crushed Xiao Zhantian down with one palm. The devil's breath evil turns into death. The powerful true energy merged with the power of heaven and earth to form a huge palm. Endless blood-red sword energy appeared out of thin air in the palm, aiming at Xiao Zhantian and slashing him head-on. The sword energy blocked the world, blocking Xiao Zhantian's way of retreat, leaving him nowhere to go. Can escape, can only confront head-on. It's a small trick, don't use it to embarrass yourself. Xiao Zhantian knows this move. The last time he fought with the incarnation of Shang Guan'ao used this move. In the end, Xiao Zhantian broke it with the fire god's wrath. But last time it was the incarnation, this time it was the original form. Although the moves are the same, the power is completely different. The power of this move performed by this deity is more than 10 times that of the incarnation of the heavenly being. Sword 21. Xiao Zhantian flew up. Countless sword energies around him were generated in the void. They turned into a frenzy of sword energy and shot into the sky. They collided with Shang Guan'ao's killing move. Dang! 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 Countless sword chi collided and erupted. There were bursts of sounds of gold and iron. Sparks flew in the sky, and the true essence exploded. The sword energy frenzy went forward, smashing the bloody sword shadow into pieces, and finally bombarded the palm of the giant palm. Boom! The sword energy frenzy smashed the giant palm into pieces. Pierced through, he shot towards Shang Guan'ao with undiminished power. Shang Guan'ao flew back, his figure cut across the sky, leaving after images. But he was fast, and Xiao Zhantian's sword energy was faster, chasing after Shang Guan'ao. Reluctant to leave. If you want to kill me, you are still far away. The devil's breath becomes evil and becomes empty. Shang Guan'ao roared, turned around to look at the moon and struck down with the palm. The huge blood-colored palm formed instantly, crushed down, and shattered the frenzy of sword energy. At this time, Gangxiang also took action again. He flew up and crossed his legs. Sitting high in the sky, clasping hands, reciting the Buddha's name, the whole body emits dazzling Buddha light, illuminating the entire sky. The Bodhi seals and sword leaves traces. Buddha's light gathered all over the sky, and the power of heaven and earth formed a vortex and shrouded the sky above Gang Xiang's head. The center of the vortex was pierced, and a huge Buddhist sword came out from the vortex, aiming at Xiao Zhantian and slashing him head-on. This move cost Gang Xiang a lot of money at this moment. He was seriously injured and could hardly use the power of his true essence and soul. Gang Xiang's eyes were closed tightly and his face was as usual, but his mouth, nose, and 7 orifices were bleeding. It's just that Gang Xiang was indifferent to this and concentrated on controlling the Zen sword to kill. Xiao Zhantian. Welcome. Today I will let you see what the myth of swordsmanship is. Xiao Zhantian raised his head and looked up at the sky. When he saw the huge Buddha sword coming to kill him, he was not angry but happy. He was not retreating but advancing. He raised his hand and pointed a finger at the Buddha sword. The endless sword energy around him suddenly appeared in the void, forming a sword energy frenzy and soaring into the sky. Up. Thunder suddenly appeared in the sky, and the power of heaven and earth surged in, merging with the sword energy crazily. The sword energy all over the sky attracted each other, and finally merged into one, forming a giant sword energy with a length of more than 400 meters. As soon as the sword came out, Heron's sword intent rushed in all directions. At this moment, within 100 miles, all swordsmen heard the sound of swords in their ears, and the swords in their hands trembled, as if they were about to be unsheathed and fly into the distance. There was a way of swordsmanship. The Grand Master looked at Xiao Zhantian from a distance and felt his eyes sting. Ordinary warriors could not see it, but at the Grand Master level, they could see it. The sky was filled with endless sword energy, as if it was about to kill the world, massacre all the people. 22 swords. Xiao Zhantian thrust out his sword and collided head-on with the huge Buddha sword. Bang! The moment the two swords collided, the scene of a stalemate did not appear. Just now, although Xiang's Buddha sword is strong, Xiao Zhantian's Holy Spirit sword technique is stronger. The huge Buddha was instantly filled with cracks, and then shattered in Gang Xiang's frightened eyes. The killing move was broken, and Gang Xiang was instantly counterattacked, and his 7 orifices he was bleeding, his eyes were shedding tears of blood, and he looked as ferocious and terrifying as an evil ghost. The power of the 22 swords remained unabated, and it pierced the Gang Xiang in the sky. The Gang Xiang was seriously injured and did not dare to take Xiao Zhantian's killing move head-on, knowing that he would take this. If he did this, he would definitely die, so he turned into a ray of Buddha's light and flew away to escape. But in the end, he escaped a little slower. The giant sword cut through the sky, and a ray of sword light passed over the left half of Gang Xiang's body. Gang Xiang let out a scream, his left arm was crushed by the sword energy, and immediately turned into a blood mist that filled the sky. Then the blood mist was also strangled into nothingness by the sword energy. The giant sword flew across the sky, inserted into the high-altitude vortex, and completely broke up the vortex. Ah! Just now the elephant fell from the sky and let out a shrill wail. The whole person had turned into a bloody man and was extremely miserable. Even Shang Guan'ao couldn't help but take a breath of air when he saw the appearance of the elephant at this moment. The heaven and man are one from above. A strong man was actually beaten to death by Xiao Zhantian. Life was worse than death. If it was an ordinary broken arm, Gang Xiang would never wail like this with his character. But when Xiao Zhantian cut off Gang Xiang's arm, sword energy invaded Gang Xiang's body through the wound on his broken arm, destroying Gang Xiang's internal organs, muscles, and meridians. At this moment, sword energy was surging in Gang Xiang's body, tearing every inch of his flesh and blood. Such torture, no less than when Ling Qi was alive, the pain was indescribable in words. Even the strong man who united nature and man could not bear the pain caused by Ling Qi, let alone the pain that came from the inside out. Whoosh! Looking from the sky, Xiao Zhantian turned into a stream of light and shot towards the fallen Gang Xiang. If he didn't take Gang Xiang's life now, how long would it take him? Don't even think about it. Shangguan'ao roared, and the demonic energy in the sky burst out from him. The true energy surged wildly, the sky roared, and the power of heaven and earth gathered together, forming a three-headed and six-armed demonic form behind him. Heavenly Demon Ce Dark Sun Heavenly Jew. The three heads of the three-headed and six-armed demon god looked up to the sky and roared, and the six arms were raised at the same time. The true energy and the power of heaven and earth gathered to form a giant black magic sword. The six arms of the demon god and the phase grasped the hilt at the same time, and swung the sword across the sky. He slashed at Xiao Zhantian in various ways. This sword was not only aimed at Xiao Zhantian, but also at Gang Xiang. Both Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang were targeted by this sword. Demon Sek Xuanzun is indeed ruthless, I am truly convinced. Xiao Zhantian had expected this. With a thought, Zhou Shen's lightning flashed and thunder snakes danced wildly. High-altitude black clouds swept across and shot down a giant lightning pillar, which bombarded Xiao Zhantian. Boom! Thunder exploded. The lightning beam disappeared, and what appeared in the sky was an electric god with a size of more than 300 meters. The god of electricity is angry. The wrath of the lightning god of the four symbols of heaven's will is the strongest move among the four arts. The god of lightning looked up to the sky and roared, raising his hands. Thunder and lightning fell from the sky, and was caught in the hands of the god of lightning. The thunder and lightning transformed into 100-meter thunder. The sword struck hard at the demon god and demon cult. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 375. Boom. The two swords collided, causing a terrifying shockwave to sweep in all directions. A huge cave with a diameter of more than a kilometer and a depth of more than 100 meters sunk into the ground under the feet of the demon god Faxiang and the electric god Faxiang. Boom. 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 Bolts of thunder and lightning burst out from the body of the electric god, bombarding the demon god's Faxiang, splitting open the demon god's Faxiang's armor and body. The demonic god roared and swept across with his sword. With a bang, the two Dharma statues both fell back. With each step, the ground shook, leaving huge footprints. The killing moves were raging, and there was no longer an inch of intact land around Xiao Zhantian and Shangguan'ao. Gang Xiang, who suffered the aftermath of the two people's killing moves head-on, was even more injured and had no fighting power at all. Gang Xiang was lying in the ruins, covered in blood, one arm disappeared, and the other arm and 2 feet were irregularly twisted, with an unknown number of broken bones. In addition, his chest was sunken and he was blind in one eye. It can be said that it is as miserable as it is miserable. No one could have imagined that such a high-ranking heavenly being would one day fall to such a miserable state. Xiao Zhantian raised his hand to grab it, and his true energy surged out, grabbing Gang Xiang in the hand of the god of lightning. Gang Xiang's eyes were dim and he was still vomiting 727 blood. He gritted his teeth and exerted his last bit of strength, looked at the green-faced, fanged, and ferocious electric god Dharma in front of him, and said in a weak voice, Donor Xiao, the poor monk has surrendered. Bodhi Temple is willing to surrender. The poor monk can die, but he begs almsgiver Xiao to let Bodhi Temple go. At this moment, Gang Xiang's heart is filled with endless regret. He regrets going against Xiao Zhantian, and regrets helping the Xiao royal family in Daliang. This was originally a private feud between Xiao Zhantian and the Xiao royal family, and has nothing to do with Bodhi Temple. Regardless, in the end, whoever wins or loses, Bodhi Temple will be able to sit like a mountain and remain untouched. Just because of his wrong thoughts, he pushed Bodhi Temple to the opposite side of Xiao Zhantian, which caused a huge disaster. The great master of Bodhi Temple suffered heavy casualties, and now even he is also going to die. Gang Xiang has lived for more than 100 years, but he is not afraid of death. But he is afraid that Bodhi Temple will disappear and be destroyed. He can die, but Bodhi Temple cannot die, otherwise even if Gangxiang dies, he will not have the face to meet the ancestors of Bodhi Temple. So Gangxiang begged for mercy. At this moment, he was willing to put down all dignity and all glory, just asking Xiao Zhantian to show some compassion and spare Bodhi Temple. Xiao Zhantian looked at Gangxiang expressionlessly, his eyes as cold as the sea, without any emotional fluctuations. If I had known today, why bother in the beginning? If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. Don't you think it's too late to beg for mercy now? Xiao Zhantian's eyes were cold and his voice was even colder. Those words made Gangxiang shiver and his heart became cold. He heard the murderous intention in Xiao Zhantian's words. He will not let go of Bodhi Temple. Donor Xiao, can't you show kindness? You must know that God has the virtue of good life, and if you commit evil acts of killing, you will be punished by God. Gangxiang didn't want to give up and begged, as long as Donor Xiao is willing to let Bodhi Temple go, Bodhi Temple is willing to surrender to Donor Xiao and serve as the sword in Donor Xiao's hands. That would also be beneficial to Donor Xiao. Please also ask Donor Xiao to show your noble hand. Gangxiang endured the serious injuries in his body and knelt down on the palm of the hand of the god of electricity. A stream of lightning jumped from the palm of his hand and struck Gangxiang's body, splitting his flesh and blood into charcoal. But Gangxiang felt no pain. Now he only wants to find a way to survive for Bodhi Temple, and he no longer cares about the physical pain. Too late. Xiao Zhantian said coldly, from the day you decided to go against me, there is only one ending for Bodhi Temple, and that is destruction. After the words fell, Xiao Zhantian suddenly clenched the giant palm of the god of lightning. With a pop, it was as if his body had been crushed by Xiao Zhantian. His body was dead and his soul was extinguished. His soul was gone. At this point, a generation of heavenly masters from Bodhi Temple fell. Xiao Zhantian let go of the giant palm of the god of electricity, and wisps of ashes scattered, flying in the wind. Boom! There was a loud roar of thunder and lightning in the sky. The wind and clouds changed, and the high-altitude clouds swept across, creating a huge vortex. The vortex emitted dazzling golden light, shooting the next giant beam of light enveloped the ashes left after the death of Gangxiang and attracted them to the sky. When a heavenly being falls, there must be a celestial phenomenon to warn the world. This is the second time Xiao Zhantian has seen a strange phenomenon caused by the death of a heavenly being. Last time he killed the blood demon Yuquan. This time the man who died this time was a real master of the unity of heaven and man, so the vision was 10 times and 100 times more terrifying than when the blood demon died. The clouds in the sky rolled, thunder roared, it was as if the heavens were angry. There was golden light shining in the clouds, tearing the clouds apart, and eventually dyeing the entire sky golden. Such a terrifying vision spread hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of miles around. The people of the entire Daliang, as long as you look up, you can see the terrifying vision in the sky. The surrounding countries can also vaguely see it. Although it is not as terrifying as in Daliang, it is enough to make people feel confused. What's wrong? Has the sky fallen? God is angry. What a terrible vision. What happened? This is a vision caused by the fall of heavenly beings. There is a long-standing martial arts family in the capital city. They have read many secret scriptures of family traditions and know that there must be visions when gods fall. What they see now is exactly the same as what is recorded in the secret scriptures, and even more terrifying. One heavenly being has fallen. How come? Will the powerful heavenly beings, who are so high above and overlooking the world, also fall? Countless warriors looked at the vision in the sky with dull eyes, unable to believe this fact. Their lifelong pursuit was just the realm of the Grand Master, and they did not dare to think about the realm of unity between man and nature. But they did not expect that even they did not dare to think about it. A master of the unity of nature and man would actually be killed. In the face of death, everyone is indeed equal, and masters of the unity of nature and man are no different from ordinary warriors. It's Xiao Zhantian and Gang Xiang. The winner of their battle is decided. Some warriors have guessed the truth. Who's winning? Xiao Zhantian or Gang Xiang? It must be Xiao Zhantian. Didn't we hear Xiao Zhantian's roar before? Gang Xiang was defeated. Xiao Zhantian was chasing Gang Xiang. Now it seems that Gang Xiang has been killed by Xiao Zhantian. Xiao Zhantian is so terrifying. He can actually kill even the strong man who is one of heaven and man. Who else in the entire Liang dynasty can be his opponent? The Xiao royal family is over, Bodhi temple is over, and Xiao Zhantian has the last laugh. Win, the master wins, we win. All the Kishala killers in Shangjing city cheered and shouted, their fighting spirit was high, and they were more powerful when killing people, as if they would never get tired. Xiao Zhantian killed the celestial being and Gang Xiang, which gave them great encouragement. It is their lifelong honor to be able to follow Xiao Zhantian in battle. Xiao Zhantian, who was blood-bathing the palace, also saw the vision in the sky. He was overjoyed to know the result of Xiao Zhantian's victory. 1. Wuxia won. Sure enough, Wuxia is the strongest. Even if Gang Xiang has been on the road of heaven and man for 30 years, he is still no match for Wuxia. Xiao Zhantian was trembling with excitement. All the hairs on his body stood up at this moment. The blood in his body was boiling and his heart was beating wildly. To be honest, Xiao Zhantian was still a little worried before the war started. After all, Gang Xiang of Bodhi Temple has been famous for a long time, and he broke through to the realm of unity of nature and man 30 years ago. Xiao Tians is very worried that Xiao Wuxia is not the opponent of Gang Xiang. But now it seems that he underestimated Xiao Wuxia and underestimated Gang Xiang. Even if Gang Xiang has been on the road to heaven and humanity for 30 years, he still can't compare to a rising star like Xiao Wuxia. Monsters and geniuses are completely different. Gang Xiang is a genius among millions of people. And Xiao Wuxia is a peerless evildoer who is unique among hundreds of millions of people, far above the so-called geniuses. Grandpa, father, mother, uncle, have you seen it? Wuxia, he won. As expected of me, the Kailan son of the Xiao family, the Xiao family can finally be revived. Xiao Tians was moved to tears. His long-cherished wish came true. His mind and body were empty. The big stone weighing on his heart finally fell to the ground. Wuxia has already won, old man, I can't be lenient. Xiao Tians listened to the miserable wailing in his ears and looked at the figures running around in the palace. His eyes were fierce and murderous. With a hiss, Xiao Tians turned into a black shadow and entered the harem, ruthlessly attacking the harem. Massacre. All men, women, old and young were killed. No chickens or dogs were spared. Xiao Tian's heart was as solid as stone, his murderous intention was as sharp as a knife, and he showed no mercy. Just as the royal family bloodbathed his Xiao family back then, today they will also bloodbath the royal family. This is called 4.3 treat others in their own way. Xiao Tians also knows one thing very well, that is, he must not leave behind any troubles, he must eradicate them. 62 years ago, the Xiao royal family left him and Xiao Tiankai. Later troubles led to today's genocide. So he couldn't let what happened today happen again. Xiao Tians didn't want the remnants of the Xiao royal family to come back for revenge 60 or 100 years later. Although this possibility was slim, he couldn't give it a chance. The Xiao royal family leaves no chance. The only way is to eliminate the root cause and completely eliminate future troubles. Spare your life. Spare me. We are willing to surrender, please forgive me, sir. I am a member of the royal family, and I am the crown prince of Flying Eagle. Who dares to kill me? No, no, stop it. I don't want to die. Facing death, Some people cried bitterly and knelt down to beg for mercy. Some people were still putting on airs and using their royal status to threaten. Little did they know that if he revealed his royal status, he would only die faster. The entire palace was ruthlessly slaughtered, and the earth was covered in blood. Dying red, the air is filled with the strong smell of blood. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 376. Outside the palace, the upper capital was also filled with the smell of gunpowder smoke and blood. The battlefield here is more brutal, and more people die. On the street, there were corpses everywhere as far as the eye could see. It could be said that corpses were everywhere and blood was flowing like rivers. Some of the warriors watching the battle were already stunned and fell into deep shock. Xiao Zhantian. Xiao Zhantian. This person really wants to kill the heavens. Sure enough, he did not choose the wrong name. More than 130 years ago, Xiao Zhan of the Xiao family was famous all over the world. At that time, he was the most likely warrior to enter the realm of unity between heaven and man. However, his martial arts was delayed due to the national war, which led to the severance of the road between heaven and man. After more than 100 years, Xiao Zhantian, a descendant of the Xiao family, was born. His talent were even greater than that of Xiao Zhan. The Xiao family is really enduring. Countless warriors sighed, feeling infinite awe for Xiao Zhantian. They witnessed with their own eyes the rise of a generation of peerless strong men on the countless corpses of the Xiao royal family and Bodhi temple. If nothing unexpected happens, in the next 100 years, all the great beams will be destroyed by Xiao Zhantian. Rule. The major martial arts families are uneasy. According to the current situation, Xiao Zhantian is certain to win, and Daliang will be controlled by this person. And once the new emperor ascends the throne, the situation of the entire Daliang will also change drastically. They, the martial arts families, will naturally want to bow down and surrender, otherwise the only path that awaits them is destruction. At this moment, many heads of martial arts families and sect leaders who were sitting on the mountain watching the fight between tigers and tigers made an immediate decision. Come here, give me an order. All the warriors of the Chen family will be sent out to hunt down the Xiao family's royal bloodline. They will capture as many as possible alive. If they cannot capture 26 alive, they will be killed on the spot. Come here, give me the order. All the innate and above warriors of the Lu family will be dispatched to help the Kishalu killers against the royal army. Come, all the men and horses of the Meng family will go to the city tower to help the army defend the city. Someone coming. Someone coming. One by one, the martial arts families and martial arts sects dispatched troops and warriors to join the ranks of the Xiao family's siege. They don't dare to offer help in times of need, but they still dare to add the icing on the cake. Help Xiao Zhantian now. Although Xiao Zhantian may not be grateful to them for helping them afterwards, it at least expresses their attitude of surrender. In this way, Xiao Zhantian will not settle accounts with their descendants, and the family can be preserved. In contrast, the martial arts families and sects who sided with the Xiao royal family and Bodhi temple were in despair. Their morale had already begun to weaken after the seven-sword king Xiao Hung was killed. But at least there was still the pillar of Gangxiang supporting the sky at that time. As long as Gangxiang survives, they have a chance to turn defeat into victory. But now, Gangxiang is also dead. They lost their only chance. They lost everything, lost everything. There is only one result of losing, and that is death. Escape. Run away. Escape from Shangjing city quickly. No, escape from the beam. Daliang can't stay any longer. As long as Xiao Zhantian is still alive, there will be no place for us in Daliang. The morale of the army collapsed, and many warriors from martial arts families and sects turned into birds and beasts and fled in all directions. They only wanted to escape. They also knew that there was no place for them in the entire Daliang. Xiao Zhantian's magical power was unparalleled and overpowered the entire Daliang. As long as if he lets out the word, there will be countless Jianghu warriors and sects who are willing to do things for him in order to please him. Without Xiao Zhantian personally taking action, they will be hunted down by the entire Daliang Jianghu. Therefore, there is no safe place in the entire Daliang. They had a chance of survival by escaping from Daliang. However, now that the 9 gates of Shangjing city were closed, there was no way for them to survive. Moreover, there were a large number of pursuers behind them, who were chasing them all the time. Let alone escaping from Daliang. Even escaping from Shangjing city may not be possible. Outside Shangjing city, Xiao Zhantian's incarnation of heaven and man stood in the air. The ground under his feet was dilapidated, full of sword marks and palm prints. The soil was dyed red with blood, and the ground was broken. Broken limbs and minced meat were intertwined, forming a quagmire of flesh and blood. Xiao Wuji didn't know how many people he had killed. He only saw the army outside the city coming towards him without fear of death. The armies of the vassal kings everywhere seemed to be desperate for their lives. Who only wanted to kill him, the incarnation of heaven, and rushed into the palace to help King Qin. Although some people had long said that the 7 Swords King Xiao Hung was dead and all the vassal kings were dead, they still didn't believe it. If they didn't see the body, they would do not believe the truth. Everything Xiao Zhantian said is nonsense. Boom! A strange phenomenon appeared in the sky, golden light fell, and the color of the sky changed. The vision of the fall of heavenly beings alarmed hundreds of thousands of troops. The army's offensive is here. There was a pause, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers raised their heads at the same time, looking at the vision in the sky. What's going on? What happened? God is angry and the sky is falling. The immortal has come to this world. The army is all ordinary warriors. They don't know that the fall of heavenly beings will cause heavenly phenomena, so they don't know the truth. Xiao Zhantian's heavenly being incarnation came to the sky above the heads of the army, and his voice rumbled, spreading in all directions. Bodhi Temple heavenly being Gangxiang has been beheaded by me. Xiao Hung, 7 Sword King of Xiao clan in Daliang, has also been beheaded by me. All the vassal kings of Xiao clan in Daliang have been killed and injured. If you continue to be stubborn, you will definitely die. Put down your weapons and surrender now, there is still a way to survive. Xiao Zhantian's voice was like thunder, exploding in the ears of hundreds of thousands of troops, causing their brains to go blank and almost losing their ability to think. They only heard. The strong man from Bodhi Temple just seemed dead, the 7 Swords King Xiao Hung died, and so did many feudal kings. These words kept echoing in their ears, making their heads buzz. When heaven and man fall, there must be visions, and that is the proof. The Xiao royal family in Daliang has been defeated. Are you still going to resist and be buried with them? Xiao Zhantian's voice sounded again. It is impossible for him to kill all the millions of troops in Daliang. He must conquer them if he can. In the future, he will have to rely on these troops to control Daliang. After listening to Xiao Zhantian's words, hundreds of thousands of troops, the morale of the army suddenly fell to freezing point, and countless soldiers were panicked. Is what he said true? Is Master Gangxiang of Bodhi Temple really dead? Even Prince Xiao Hongxiao, the 7 Swords King, is dead. Our prince is also dead. It should be true. Doesn't it mean that there must be visions when heavenly beings fall? Now that the vision is before our eyes, can it still be false? The soldiers were whispering to each other and talking in panic. Although they didn't want to believe it, the facts were right in front of them and they couldn't tolerate disbelief. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of troops lost their will to fight and wanted to lay down their weapons and kneel down to surrender. I want to surrender. I don't want to die. My mother-in-law is still at home waiting for me to go back. I don't want to die either, my wife is waiting for me at home too. My mother-in-law just gave birth to a big fat boy for me last year. I haven't seen him yet. I don't want to die here. Surrender, I want to surrender. Surrendering can save your life. Xiao Zhantian is a great master. He should not go back on his words and deceive us. As long as we surrender, we can save our lives. The first soldier said to surrender, and soon there were the second, third, 10th, 100, 1000, 10,000. The atmosphere of surrender quickly spread among the army, and dozens of the morale of Wang Dejun collapsed instantly, and his fighting spirit was gone. Shut up, all of you, this general. How can we, the generals of Daliang, be greedy for life and afraid of death? As Daliang soldiers, it is our responsibility to protect our homeland and our country. Even if we die on the battlefield, it is our lifelong honor. How can you surrender so easily? Shut up for me, general. Pick up the sword and don't surrender. Kill this person for me, general. This person is deceiving the public with his lies. You cannot believe him. 477. In the army, one general shouted loudly, trying to revive the morale of the army. Unfortunately, the morale of the army had been lost, and no one listened to him anymore. Even if these generals killed the surrounding soldiers to establish their authority, it had no effect at all. Damn it, you know these people are of no use. King Yang's army, follow this general to kill the enemy bravely. King Yan's army, our army will kill the enemy. Where are Prince Zhuang's troops? The time has come to serve the prince. Warriors of Prince Ji's army, are you afraid of death? Follow my general to eradicate the traitors, and King Qin will come to your rescue. Among the army, generals brandished their swords and roared, leading special armies to kill Xiao Wuji. These armies were all relatives of the vassal kings from all over the country, and they were also their die-hard loyalists. In a sense, they were like dead soldiers. Such an army only loyal to the vassal king, they did not even pay attention to the emperor's will. They were willing to fight to the death for the vassal king until they died in the battle. Xiao Wuji could not conquer them, and they would not surrender. Pity. Xiao Wuji shook his head slightly, and then raised his palm. The true energy exploded, the power of heaven and earth gathered and transformed, and a huge phantom of the Buddha appeared behind Xiao Wuji. The light of Buddha first appears. Buddha asked Jialan. Buddha moves mountains and rivers. Buddhism is boundless. The heavenly Buddha comes to the world. 10,000 Buddhas Chaozone. One after another, monstrous Buddha palms fell from the sky and slapped heavily into the charging army formation. The army let out a miserable wail, and countless soldiers were beaten into blood mist by Xiao Zhantian, leaving no bones left. The earth shook violently, the vibration was like an earth dragon turning over. Every time a Buddha palm fell, it would leave a deep 5-finger palm print on the earth. After Xiao Zhantian finished a set of Tathagata palms, he fought from the front to the back of the army formation, and he didn't know how to kill him. How many soldiers? But at least tens of thousands. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 377. Among the ruins, some surviving soldiers looked up at the sky. Seeing Xiao Wuji standing in the air, I felt like my liver and gallbladder were splitting, and I was scared to death. Their eyes were dull and their expressions were frightened. They had turned into fools and lunatics. There is no more fighting spirit in my heart. Although they were die-hard loyalists to the feudal kings everywhere, they were not afraid of death and were ready to die in battle for their feudal kings. But facing the incarnation of a heavenly being like Xiao Wuji, they couldn't do anything. There is no other way out than closing your eyes and waiting for death. The dust cleared, and the hundreds of thousands of troops in the distance were completely silent. The air is so quiet that you can hear a needle drop. Hundreds of thousands of people stared blankly at Xiao Zhantian in the sky and the ruins at Xiao Zhantian's feet. Tens of thousands of troops rushed forward and were gone in the blink of an eye. Survivors save one step at a time. Seeing the countless soldiers beaten into blood mist by Xiao Zhantian, hundreds of thousands of people felt chilled both physically and mentally. Some soldiers couldn't bear such a tragic scene, felt sick in their hearts, and bent over to vomit. As a soldier, I am used to seeing death and seeing dead bodies. But they had never seen anyone kill like this, it was beyond their imagination. In fear, some soldiers were so frightened that they vomited blood and died. Xiao Zhantian stood in the air, looking down at the army with an expressionless face, and shouted in a cold voice, "Those who put down their weapons and kneel down to surrender will avoid death." After Xiao Zhantian finished speaking, some soldiers dropped their swords and knelt on the ground. "Bury your head in the soil. Where there is the first, there is the second, and where there is the second, there is the third." One by one, endless. I saw a large army formation composed of hundreds of thousands of soldiers, falling in pieces like wheat. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of thousands of troops fell to their knees on the ground. At this moment, Xiao Zhantian was like a god in the sky. Immortals and gods come to earth, and all living beings bow down. In this way, the overall situation of going to the capital has been decided. At the same time, Dazhu, Dian, Yekan and other countries all saw the vision of the fall of heavenly beings. A statue of Zuntian and everyone created an incarnation and traveled thousands of miles to Daliang to watch the battle. Whoosh! 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 There were streaks of light across the sky, like meteors streaking across the sky. Some of these meteors have wild and domineering auras, some are calm and reserved, some contain killing aura, and some have soaring sword intent. Without exception, these streams of light all gathered in the wasteland outside Shangjing city. Many of them were old acquaintances of Xiao Wuji. For example, the old man Tianji, who is always strong and healthy, is obsessed with flowers, and comforts the miserable courtesan. For example, Xiao Lushan, the ancestor of the heavenly beings of the great Zhou royal family. For example, Chang Kongwuji, the sword ancestor of Fixianmen in the great Zhou dynasty. There are also two Zen temples, Xiantong, a Buddhist temple, and Xiaoazai, a Taoist temple. There were a few other figures that Xiao Wuji didn't recognize. They were probably not from Zhou dynasty, but from Dian or Yeqin. Maybe there are heavenly beings in Daliang, but Xiao Wuji doesn't know them. The fall of the blood demon Yuquan before was only half a step in the fall of heavenly beings, so it could only attract the heavenly beings from the great Zhou kingdom. But this time Gangxiang is a true master of the harmony between man and nature. His death was enough to attract masters from all over the world. Except for a few heavenly beings who have been in retreat for decades, the rest of the heavenly beings must have arrived. A series of incarnations of heavenly beings stood in the air, looking at the center of the battlefield from a distance. There are two incarnations of Dharma standing hundreds of meters high. One has 3 heads and 6 arms, a ferocious face, holding a magic sword, and a surge of demonic energy. He is clearly Shang Guanao, Suanzun of the demon sect. One of them has lightning and thunder, a green face and fangs, holding a thunder sword, and the sword energy is formidable. It is Xiao Zhantian, a descendant of King Yuping. Several heavenly beings from Dazhu, such as Old Man Tianji, Xiao Lushan, Chang Kongwuji, and Xiaoazai, recognized the identities of Xiao Zhantian and Shang Guanao at a glance. As for the other people, although they didn't know their identities, looking at their Dharma incarnations, they secretly feared their strength. It seems that the elephant of Bodhi Temple has died in the battle. Alas, what a pity. Daemon Xiao Aizai took one look at the battlefield and instantly deduced the truth. He shook his head and sighed, feeling a little regretful. Xiao Aizai can deduce the truth, and the rest can also deduce the truth. Xiao Zhantian is the enemy of the Xiao family in Daliang, and everyone in the world you know. Bodhi Temple assisted the Xiao family in Daliang to become the enemy of Xiao Zhantian. This matter is also known to everyone. But at this moment, there is no trace of Gangxiang in the center of the battlefield, coupled with the previous strange phenomenon caused by the death of heavenly beings. Everyone can guess that Bodhi Temple Gangxiang has died in battle. But there is another Taoist friend missing in the world. What a pity, what a pity. Xiantong, the founder of the two Zen temples, recited the Buddha's name softly, clasped his hands together, and began to close his eyes and recite the Purana Sutra for the salvation of Gangxiang. Although Bodhi Temple and two Zen temples are enemies, Bodhi Temple has always been determined to defeat the two Zen temples and become the number one in the world. One Buddhist sect. But Xiantong and Gangxiang are both Buddhist heavenly beings. Now that they know that Gangxiang is dead, all grievances will naturally be dispersed. In terms of emotion and reason, we should recite sutras for Gangxiang to achieve salvation. Fellow Daoist Xiao is still so powerful that he can kill a rigid elephant with 1 against 2, and it seems that he is still unscathed. It is really hard to believe that fellow Daoist Xiao has broken through to the realm of heaven and human in less than a year. It's just that today isn't there a big battle between Dao Xiao, the Xiao family in Daliang, and the Bodhi Temple? Why did fellow Daoist Shangguan come to intervene? Old man Tianji stroked his beard and chuckled. If the old man remembers correctly, this is the second time the two of them have faced each other, right? Xiao Lushan, the ancestor of the Zhou royal family, sneered and said the Shangguan clan is just a troublemaker. They are everywhere where there is trouble. Who knows what bad things that thief Shangguan Ao did this time? No, no. Old man Tianji shook his head and said, how can the Shangguan clan be a troublemaker? If they are troublemakers, then who are you, the Zhou royal family? This joke is a bit cold. As soon as old man Tianji finished speaking, the air suddenly became quiet. Several incarnations of heavenly beings all looked at old man Tianji with expressionless expressions. It seems to mean that you have a sense of humor? Do you still have time to make jokes at this time? Xiao Lushan also looked at old man Tianji expressionlessly, just watching him pretending to be cool. Old man Tianji didn't feel embarrassed either, and laughed, you guys are just too uninteresting and don't understand humor, so your life is missing so much fun. Xiao Lushan glanced at the old man Tianji, no longer paying attention to this inconspicuous old man, and looked coldly at Shangguan Ao in the center of the battlefield, his eyes filled with cold light and murderous intent. The Xia clan and the Shangguan clan are mortal enemies, and when it comes to Shangguan Ao, with the murderous intention, Xiao Lushan was superior to Xiao Zhantian. When the heroes arrived, Xiao Wuji and Shangguan Ao naturally noticed it immediately, but they didn't take it to heart. Those who came were all incarnations of heaven and humans, no matter what could threaten both of them. Shangguan Ao, you miscalculated this time. Just as Xiang died, it will be your turn next. Xiao Wuji looked at Shangguan Ao and said coldly, the feng shui of this place is good, and it is witnessed by all the heroes in the world. It is just the right place for your burial. You and Gangxiang are buried together, and it will be a good story 100 years later. The voice of the electric god's Dharma image roared, carrying the power of thunder, spreading in all directions. The sky was filled with lightning and thunder, adding a bit of power to Xiao Zhantian. Shangguan Ao was fearless and said coldly, I convey these words without reservation. Here you go, this place today is the burial place of your Xiao Zhantian. The devil uses his sword to cut through the sky. Shangguan Ao roared angrily, and the three-headed and six-armed demon god Faxiang suddenly looked up to the sky and roared. The three heads roared at the same time, and the sound from invisible to tangible, he rushed towards Xiao Zhantian. Wherever the sound wave went, it tore the earth apart to form 3 ravines, and in an instant it reached the face of the electric god. The god of electricity is angry. Xiao Zhantian did not dodge. He raised his hand and struck it hard with his palm, scattering the 3 sound waves. At this time, Shang Guan'ao controlled the demon's dharma to fly high into the sky. The previous sound waves were just the prelude to the killing move. That's all. The demon uses his sword to cut through the sky. The demon god's 6 arms raised the demon sword. The demon sword emitted a dazzling blood light, and the strange words on the blade seemed to come to life. They kept wandering around and looked even more bewitching. The demon sword broke through the air and struck Xiao Zhantian head-on. Next, the high-altitude clouds were torn apart by the sword energy, and the strong wind hit. Before the sword energy arrived, it had already torn the earth apart. This move was an angry strike from Shang Guan'ao, with infinite power. Any wisp of sword energy can kill instantly. Grand Master, the pinnacle of power, hurts half-stepped heavenly beings. Welcome. The furious sword of the electric god 22. The electric god's dharma appearance roared, and endless thunder erupted all over the body. The lightning flashed and merged into one, forming streaks of thunder and lightning sword light. The electric god dharma appearance soared into the sky, and the thunder and lightning sword light was triggered by Xiao Zhantian and broke through the air. Thousands of thunder and lightning sword lights converged together to form a giant thunder sword, which was stabbed hard at the demon sword. This sword contains the violent power of the thunder of the wrath of the electric god and the sharp killing sword energy of sword 22. This sword, as soon as the sword came out, the sword intent enveloped the entire battlefield. Boom! The thunder giant sword and the demon sword collided head-on, and an extremely dazzling light erupted from the extreme. The sword light was flying, and the demonic energy was roaring. After the 2 swords collided, the terrifying shockwave suddenly exploded, rushing in all directions. The sword energy from the sky shot down, tearing the earth into sword marks and ravines. All the stones, woods, rocks, and hills were destroyed by Xiao Zhan. They were like fragile tofu in front of Tian's sword energy, being bombarded into dregs. The electric god's Faxiang and the demon's Faxiang were enveloped by the burst of power of heaven and earth, impacting, and finally being completely submerged. But the next second, roars and roars sounded at the same time. When the dharma of the electric god and the demon god are the same, they rush forward and fight together. Fists, palms, fingers, legs, plus the transformation of the true energy and the transformation of the power of heaven and earth. Every move of the 2 people contains great power. Any move can turn a half-step master into a blood mist. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 378. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had already exchanged dozens or hundreds of moves. The 2 men moved very quickly, and the battlefield moved quickly. The hills on the plain were razed to the ground by the 2 men, and the shaking and trembling earth never stopped. A series of ravines spread into the distance, like a spider web. At the center of the spider web are Xiao Zhantian and Shang Guan'ao. An incarnation of a heavenly being was watching the battle around him. No one spoke, and everyone was silent. What a sword, what a strong swordsmanship, what a strong swordsman! Chang Kong. Wuxia, the sword ancestor of the Fuxian sect, was roaring in his heart. He saw Xiao Zhan Angel's 22 sword moves, and then watched the first 22 moves of Xiao Zhan Angel's Holy Spirit sword technique. His blood boiled with excitement and he couldn't extricate himself. Chang Kong, a wave of sword intent erupted from Wuxia's body and was remotely sensed by Xiao Zhantian's sword intent. He was the number 1 swordsman in the Great Zhou dynasty. In terms of swordsmanship, no one in the entire Great Zhou dynasty could compete with him, and no one in the entire world could compete with him. Comparable. On the surface, Chang Kongwuji is the master of swordsmanship in this world, an absolute emperor. But now that he saw Xiao Zhan Angel wielding sword 22, the fierce sword intention and sharp edge made his fighting spirit surge. As a swordsman, he can feel the power of Xiao Zhantian's swordsmanship and knows that Xiao Zhantian's swordsmanship is no weaker than his. This is the only person who is qualified to discuss swordsmanship with him. He is not the only master in the world, but the rest none of the heavenly beings majored in swordsmanship and could not discuss swordsmanship with him, so Chang Kongwuji had been alone for too long. As a swordsman, he should show his sharp edge and pursue a higher realm. For decades, no one had discussed swordsmanship with him. Chang Kongwuji has been stuck in the loneliness on the top of the mountain. Therefore, his swordsmanship has not been improved for a long time. Chang Kongwuji has been waiting for someone to come and have a happy battle with him. He is waiting for an opponent. He wants to fight. Opponents fight with each other over swords, pursuing a higher realm of swordsmanship together, thus stepping into a new field. There was no one before, but now there is. Xiao Zhantian is the opponent he has been waiting for decades. Whoosh! 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 Wisps of sword energy swirled around Chang Kongwuji, instantly destroying everything around him. Old Man Tianji and Daemon Xiao Aizai were originally standing close to Chang Kongwuji, but now they were all far away from him. Fellow Daoist Chang Kong, today is a battle between fellow Daoist Xiao and fellow Daoist Chang Guan. Wouldn't fellow Daoist Chang Kong also want to intervene? Old Man Tianji stroked his beard and said. To be honest, I really want to have a good fight with Xiao Zhantian. Although the world is big and there are many strong men, he is the only one who can discuss swordsmanship with me. I have been waiting for this day for decades, and I don't want to wait any longer. Chang Kongwuji's shoulders were shaking, obviously he was suppressing his impulse. Although he longed for a happy battle with Xiao Zhantian, he knew that today was a battle between Xiao Zhantian and Shang Guan'ao. These two were not competing in martial arts. But they are fighting, the kind of life and death kind. If he joins the battle now and becomes Xiao Zhantian's enemy, Xiao Zhantian will definitely be defeated. But this is not what Chang Kongwuji wants. What he wants is to be upright and upright. Xiao Zhantian, who was in his peak state, would not join forces with Shang Guan'ao to bully the minority. In that case, even if he won, it would be a shame for him. So Chang Kongwuji suppressed his fighting spirit. On the sword there will be opportunities in the future, and today is not the best time. Boom! 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 At this moment, the battle between Xiao Zhantian and Shang Guan'ao became more intense. Xiao Zhantian slashed down with his sword, killing the demon god. The two arms of Fa Xiang were cut off. Shang Guan'ao's demon sword broke through the air and pierced the chest of Dian Shen Fa Xiang. Both demon god Fa Xiang and Dian Shen Fa Xiang stepped back, each step making a big hole in the earth. Xiao Zhantian lowered his head and looked towards the crack in the chest of the electric god. The sword almost cut off his electric god. With a thought, electric light shone at the fracture, and the crack healed quickly. A strong man who unites nature and man can use the Dharma to fight, and discovered that the truth is it is formed by the fusion of UN and the power of heaven and earth. The strength of the Dharma form is determined by the strength of the warrior. The stronger the warrior, the larger the Dharma form will be and the tougher it will be. Theoretically, as long as the warrior's true UN is endless, the Dharma form will be immortal. Of course, when the Dharma is injured, it consumes the warrior's true energy and spiritual power. Xiao Zhantian and Shang Guan'ao are both consuming each other's true energy and spiritual power at this moment. Whoever can survive to the end will win. The final winner. Xiao Zhantian, you will definitely be defeated today. How much true energy do you have left after your previous battle with Gang Xiang? Shang Guan'ao roared, and the broken arm of the demon god's Dharma appearance has been restored. Xiao Zhantian looked at Shang Guan'ao inside the demon god's Dharma appearance with an expressionless face, and the sword light flashed in his eyes. If I want to kill you, there is no need for me to kill you. Full strength. Even if I only have 10% of my strength left, I can still kill you. Arrogant. Shang Guan'ao screamed in anger, with a wild desire to kill. He has ruled the world for 70 or 80 years. Ever since he broke through the realm of unity between man and nature, no one has dared to despise him so much. Can you kill him with only 10% of your strength? Xiao Zhantian is simply incredible. It was trampling on his dignity. Although he knew that Xiao Zhantian was disturbing his mind with words, Shang Guan'ao was still furious. Xiao Zhantian, when I kill you, I must see how tough your mouth is. Take your life. The devil's breath has been prophesying for hundreds of years, and there is no one in the country. Shang Guan'ao roared loudly, the sound shook hundreds of miles away. The sky was swept by wind and clouds, the clouds rolled and boiled, and blood light burst out all over the sky, illuminating the earth. The devil's Dharma image soared into the sky, and the endless blood light gathered behind the Dharma image, eventually forming a bloody streak. Demonic swords. 100. 1,000. 10,000. 100,000. Densely packed blood-colored swords are suspended in the sky, and the number can no longer be determined. Fall under the magic sword, Chegg, Xiao Zhantian. It is your supreme honor to die by my sword. Shang Guan'ao raised his hand and pointed, and demon god Faxiang also raised the magic sword in his hand. The bloody magic sword behind Faxiang began to spin rapidly, and finally stabbed Xiao Zhantian head-on. The bloody magic sword poured down from the sky, like flying the locusts clear the earth, just like the devil's sword washes away the common people with blood. No wonder this sword is called Zhongshan no Man. Because once this sword is released, it must kill all life on the earth. Will stop? Well done, this sword is good, but if you want to kill me, you are still a little short. Today I will show you what it means to be the supreme swordsman. What a kendo myth! Xiao Zhantian raised his luck, his mind and mind were united, his mind suddenly became clear, and a sharp sword intention suddenly rose into the sky and shot straight into the sky. Boom! The sword intention exploded, sweeping across a radius of 10 miles in an instant. In this sword intention under the suppression, space was solidified and time was suspended. Time and space seemed to be frozen at this moment. The thousands of blood-colored demonic swords that Shang Guan'ao shot at Xiao Zhantian were all solidified by the sword's intention and stood still in the void. No. Impossible. When Shang Guan'ao saw this scene, his eyes widened with disbelief. He looked ferocious and roared, almost wanting to bite people. He couldn't believe that his strongest killing move was actually used by Xiao Zhantian. Confinement breaks down. Xiao Zhantian, what did you do? Shang Guan'ao roared, trying to control the thousands of blood demonic swords to kill Xiao Zhantian. But at this moment, the thousands of blood-stained demonic swords had lost contact with him, and even he himself was imprisoned by the awe-inspiring sword intent. I can't even move my fingers. What kind of martial arts is this? What kind of swordsmanship is this? How can there be a sword technique that can freeze time and space? Impossible. Impossible, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. Shang Guan'ao roared in his heart, tears of blood shed from his eyes, and a hint of panic appeared in the depths of his pupils. Even a strong man who unites nature and man will still have instinctive fear when faced with things he doesn't know. Except for Shang Guan'ao, Old Man Tianji, Xiao Aizai, Chang Kongwuji, Xiantong, Xiaolushan and other heavenly incarnations have also been suppressed and imprisoned by Xiao Zhantian's sword intent at this moment, unable to move. This sword can actually suppress time and space. It's really unseen and unheard of. This sword is no longer a mortal sword. Where did Xiao Zhantian learn such magical skills? Old Man Tianji, Xiaoazai, Xiantong, Xiaolushan and other heavenly beings are secretly frightened. Xiao Zhantian has sword skills that can suppress time and space. This time and space is Xiao Zhantian's world. If they face Xiao Zhantian, if you can't break this move, you can only be like Shang Guan Ao at this moment, reduced to meat on the chopping board, and allowed to be slaughtered by Xiao Zhantian at will. Really good swordsmanship, good swordsmanship. The only one who is fearless is Chang Kongwuji, the sword ancestor of the Fixian section. The stronger Xiao Zhantian's sword skills are, the more excited he becomes. Chang Kongwuji, who is hundreds of thousands of miles away, can't wait for this moment. He immediately rushed from Dazhu to Daliang and had a happy battle with Xiao Zhantian. Unfortunately, his physical body could not travel thousands of miles, so this wish could not be fulfilled. In the void, the electric god's Dharma was standing in the air, and Xiao Zhantian inside the Dharma. He slowly closed his eyes. Then, in the eyes of everyone, Xiao Zhantian's body glowed with white light. The light was like sword light, but also like fairy light. A shadow of Xiao Zhantian walked out of the body, slowly Shang Guan Ao flying into the distance. It's the Yuan Shen, that's Xiao Zhantian's Yuan Shen. The soul can leave the body. Xiao Zhantian can actually leave the body. How is this possible? Isn't it true that only strong men in the shattered void realm can have their souls leave the body? Could it be that Xiao Zhantian has reached the shattered void realm? No, it's impossible. Xiao Zhantian broke through to the realm of unity between man and nature less than a year ago, and it will definitely not reach the realm of shattered void. So how did he do it? Only in the realm of unity between man and nature, the soul can actually leave the body. It's simply a fantasy. Is it possible that this person is the reincarnation of Emperor Bwin? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 379. Is it possible that this person is the reincarnation of Emperor Bwin? Everyone's eyes widened when they saw Xiao Zhantian's soul breaking away from the shackles of the body and walking towards the void. At this moment, the shock in the hearts of many strong men and women cannot be described in words. Strong men who can unite nature and man can condense Yuan Shen, use the power of Yuan Shen at will. They are also clear about the various magical powers of the power of Yuan Shen. But all heavenly beings know that only the strong ones of shattered void can free the Yuan Shen from the shackles of the body. Here we are. In that state, when the physical body is destroyed but the soul is immortal, there is a chance to be reincarnated and rebuilt. Seeing with my own eyes that Xiao Zhantian, who is just a heavenly being, has his soul leave the body, making all the heavenly beings suspect that Xiao Zhantian is a reincarnated body. Old monster. The most likely possibility is the Bwin Emperor who fell thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago, the Bwin Emperor emerged from the sky and was a monster. Along the way, he stepped on the corpses of countless warriors to rise, and finally reached the highest peak of this world. The supreme power unified the world. He also transcended the realm of unity between man and nature and broke through to the realm of broken void. At that realm, Emperor Bwin was still not satisfied. He also wanted to pursue a higher realm of martial arts. So Emperor Bwin was when there was no way forward, he chose to follow the footsteps of his ancient predecessors and began to break the void. Emperor Bwin wanted to ascend to a higher dimensional world, where there would definitely be guidance from a higher martial arts realm. Unfortunately, wanting to break the void was in vain. To ascend to a higher dimensional world, you need to survive the heavenly tribulation. The power of the heavenly tribulation is terrifying. According to legend, in the ancient times, countless strong men from the broken void fell under the heavenly tribulation. Those who can successfully survive the heavenly tribulation, not even one of 1,000 shattered void warriors can survive. Emperor Bwin failed in the end. His body was turned into ashes under the catastrophe, and his body and soul disappeared. The empire founded by Emperor Bwin also fell apart due to the fall of Emperor Bwin, and eventually dispersed into several countries. Since then, the world has been in chaos and has never been unified again. Everyone in the world believes that Emperor Bwin fell during the catastrophe. For thousands of years, the legend of Emperor Bwin has almost disappeared, except for some only ancient books and strong men remember this peerless hegemon. But now, many strong men and women see Xiao Zhantian's soul leaving his body, and they can't help but suspect that Xiao Zhantian is the reincarnation of Bwin Emperor. In other words, the real Xiao Zhantian was already dead and was taken away by the soul of Emperor Bwin. In this way, Xiao Zhantian used many powerful martial arts. He was so powerful at such a young age that he could kill and break through 3 people in just 1 year. 10 years of strength can be explained. Because Xiao Zhantian is the reincarnation of Emperor Bwin, and the martial arts he uses are the martial arts of Emperor Bwin thousands of years ago. It is natural that no one knows him. Because he is Emperor Bwin rebuilding, so the road to martial arts is smooth, and breaking through the realm is as simple as eating and drinking. Even the road to heaven and man cannot stop Emperor Bwin, because Emperor Bwin has surpassed this realm thousands of years ago. Breaking through the realm of heaven and man, it can also be explained that the Gangxiang who can kill the 30-year breakthrough in 1 year is because Emperor Bwin's understanding of martial arts is beyond the comparison of ordinary heavenly beings like them. Xiao Zhantian, also known as Emperor Bwin, is now re-walking the road to hegemony thousands of years ago. The more many heavenly beings thought about it, the more they felt it was possible, and the possibility was very high. For a moment, many powerful heavenly beings felt some inexplicable panic. They saw that Xiao Zhantian was no longer a fellow Taoist, but an old monster from 1,000 years ago. For thousands of years, no one has been able to reach the realm of shattered void. The unity of heaven and man is the almighty immortal God. In this world, they are the supreme beings. But suddenly, an old monster from 1,000 years ago was reincarnated and rebuilt. With Emperor Bwin's talent, it won't be long before he returns to the top. At that time, the so-called masters of the unity of man and nature will be like ants in front of Emperor Bwin. If you are used to being aloof, who would want to be an ant? Boom! Time was frozen by the sword's will, and many incarnations of heavenly beings were unable to control their bodies. Shang Guan'ao, who was the first to bear the brunt, could only watch as Xiao Zhantian's soul flew towards him. Xiao Zhantian's soul is surrounded by endless sword energy, and the power of each sword energy is extremely powerful and terrifying. Sword 23. At this moment, Xiao Zhantian finally used the most powerful killing move of the Holy Spirit sword technique, Sword 23. The sky-destroying Jedi Sword 23, this sword is the sword of the soul. As soon as this sword is released, time and space freeze, and ghosts cry. The god howled, and everything was destroyed. Xiao Zhantian combined his fingers to form sword fingers, and pointed one finger at Shang Guan'ao's eyebrows. The devil's spell could not stop Xiao Zhantian's sword energy, and was easily pierced like tissue paper. No! 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 Shang Guan'ao roared crazily in his heart, and endless fear emerged in his heart. He originally thought that he would never have the emotion of fear again in this life, and he could accept death calmly. But facing this sword, he was extremely afraid. His physical body was trembling, his soul was trembling, and he couldn't control himself. Kang! Finally, Xiao Zhantian's sword finger fell between Shang Guan'ao's eyebrows, and the endless sword energy gathered together and shot from Shang Guan'ao's eyebrows, broke through the body and entered. Xiao Zhantian's soul also turned into a sword energy, integrated into Shang Guan'ao's body, and finally passed through him. Whoosh! 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 Sword energy shot out all over the sky, but Shang Guan'ao's physical body was not damaged at all. Xiao Zhantian appeared behind Shang Guan'ao, emptied the air, and his soul flashed back to his own body. The soul returns the moment it was sheathed, the frozen time and space resumed flowing. There was only a crisp sound, and the imprisoned blood-colored magic sword exploded at the same moment, turning into sword energy fragments and dissipating in the wind. In the countless bloody sword energy among the fragments, the demonic form that was hundreds of meters tall was extremely conspicuous. However, Shang Guan'ao's screams broke the silence. The three-headed and six-armed demonic form exploded, blood spurted from Shang Guan'ao's mouth and nose, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The breath was extremely weak in an instant. If Shang Guan'ao's vitality was like a sun before, then now Shang Guan'ao's vitality is like a firefly, so weak that it cannot be weaker, and it seems that it will be extinguished at any time. You, what did you do to me? Shang Guan'ao panted, staring at Xiao Zhantian with sinister eyes, his expression extremely ferocious and terrifying. Not only Shang Guan'ao wanted to know, but also Tianji Old Man, Xiao Aizai, Chang Kongwuji and other powerful heavenly beings wanted to know. Xiao Zhantian had previously said the sword froze time and space, and its power was indescribable. Logically speaking, they would not be surprised at all even if Shang Guan'ao was killed by a sword. But now Shang Guan'ao only vomited a few mouthfuls of blood, and there was not even a single sword mark on his body. This is obviously unreasonable. No one would doubt that Xiao Zhantian's sword just now was just like thunder and raindrops. It must be a unique killing sword. It's just that they don't know where the killing move is hidden. Xiao Zhantian looking at Shang Guan'ao, his eyes were cold, as if he were looking at a dead person. It is your supreme honor to be able to die 23 blows from my heaven-destroying sword. Shang Guan'ao, you can die in peace. As soon as he finished speaking, Shang Guan'ao felt that there was a force in his body that was about to burst out of his body. He quickly mobilized the power of his soul to suppress that force, but the moment he mobilized the power of his soul, a sharp pain hit him. Shang Guan'ao had a splitting headache and couldn't help but let out a pitiful wail. This pain was far superior to Lingqi's torture. Because this was the wound of the soul. The 23 swords of the destroying heaven and earth were the sword of the soul, so the wound was it is also the soul. Xiao Zhantian's sword just now has completely destroyed Shang Guan'ao's soul. If a person does not have a soul, he will naturally die soon. And this is just the beginning. Shang Guan'ao raised his head to the sky and roared, his eyes the 7 orifices including the mouth, nose, etc. all emitted dazzling white light. That was the sword energy and sword intention that Xiao Zhantian penetrated into Shang Guan'ao's body. At this moment, these sword energies surged out of Shang Guan'ao's body like raging tsunami waves. Shang Guan'ao's body was torn apart by the sword energy, cracking into cracks. No blood flowed out from the cracks, only the dazzling white light sword energy. Xiao. Cut. Sky. Shang Guan'ao looked up to the sky and roared, looking at Xiao Zhantian from a distance, and stretched out his hand to catch Xiao Zhantian. However, he only took one step, and his body exploded. The condensed sword energy finally exploded at this moment, it blasted in all directions. With Shang Guan'ao as the center, everything within a radius of several thousand meters was completely destroyed. When everything dissipated, only a huge hole with a diameter of several thousand meters appeared in front of everyone. Shang Guan'ao had been wiped out, and there were no bones. Save. Boom. The clouds in the sky are rolling, the golden light is shining, and the vision of the fall of heavenly beings is reappearing in the world. A golden light pillar falls from the sky and shines on the center of the pit, where Shang Guan'ao fell. Unfortunately, this time the golden light cannot even absorb the fragments Shang Ao has been cut into nothingness by Xiao Zhantian's sword, not even the ashes of the robbery are left. The battlefield is dead silent, and time and space seem to be frozen solid. Chang Kongwuji, Tianji Old Man, Xiaoazai, Xiantong and other incarnations of heavenly beings. They looked at the vision of the fallen gods in the sky with dull expressions, looked at the huge empty hole, and Xiao Zhantian standing in the air, all with dull expressions, and their hearts were shocked and speechless. At this moment, they didn't know what to do. What words can I use to describe the shocking emotions in my heart? They witnessed with their own eyes Xiao Zhantian beheading a veteran strong man who united nature and man. And he only used one sword. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 380. In the last move, Shang Guanao's combat power was still at its peak, he was not injured, and his true energy and soul power were not consumed. This is equivalent to saying that Xiao Zhantian killed a master of the unity of heaven and man with peak combat power with one sword. You must know that in the past 100 years, except for the two celestial masters who died naturally, no celestial master has been killed by others. But today, there are two of them. In addition to Shang Guanao, whom they saw with their own eyes, there was also Gang Xiang who they did not see. What kind of sword technique did Xiao Zhantian use just now? It was really terrifying. Is it the sword technique used by Emperor Biwen thousands of years ago? Thousands of years ago, Biwen Emperor was extremely talented in martial arts. He was proficient in all 18 kinds of martial arts including swords, guns, swords, and halberds. His fists, palms, legs and fists were unrivaled in the world. Emperor Biwen mastered so many magical skills that only a few of them have been passed down to later generations and are still recorded, so future generations no longer know about them. But the power of that sword just now was really terrifying. Now that I think about it, I still feel panicked and chilled both physically and mentally. The 23 heaven-destroying and Jedi-destroying swords are truly worthy of their name. Shang Guanao was killed with such sword skills, so he died a worthy death. Many heavenly 337 masters have confused thoughts in their hearts, and their eyes when looking at Xiao Zhantian are extremely complicated. They have all kinds of emotions, fear, admiration, and fear. Of course, the most common ones are fear and awe. Xiao Zhantian is an enemy with one enemy. Second, kill two strong men of heaven and man in one battle. Such terrifying combat power makes several other heavenly men extremely fearful. Shang Guanao has been famous for many years and has broken through the realm of heaven and man for more than 40 years. In terms of strength, there is no absolute certainty that one can defeat Shang Guanao, let alone kill Shang Guanao. For example, Xiao Lushan, the ancestor of the great Zhou celestial people, clamored to kill Shang Guanao and get rid of the scourge for the great Zhou. But he could only if you can talk, it is impossible to kill Shang Guanao. Xiao Lushan is very self-aware. He and Shang Guanao are only in the same strength, and no one can do anything to the other. Unless he uses secret techniques to kill Shang Guanao, he will never be able to kill Shang Guanao. It was impossible to kill Shang Guanao. However, today, Xiao Zhantian killed Shang Guanao with just one sword. Such strength was far superior to that of Xiao Lushan. The same was true for the other heavenly beings. His strength is also on par with Shang Guanao. Xiao Zhantian can kill Shang Guanao with one sword, so naturally he can kill them all with one sword. After thinking about this, two heavenly beings from Daliang, one heavenly being from Yechin, and Bian, the two heavenly beings couldn't help but stay away from Xiao Zhantian. They had listed Xiao Zhantian as a person who could not be provoked, and they had no idea of ever setting foot in Daliang territory again. As long as Xiao Zhantian was in Daliang, they would never be able to escape. I will set foot on this land again, lest I become enemies with Xiao Zhantian and bring disaster to myself. The only people who can look directly at Xiao Zhantian safely are Tianji Old Man, Chang Kongwuji, Xiantong, and Xiao Aizai. Nowadays, there are 4 people, Old Man Tianji, Chang Kongwuji, Xiantong, and Xiao Aizai. In the world, the strength of these four people is the strongest in the world. They are one level higher than other powerful people in the unity of nature and man. Of course, Xiaoyashi, another ancestor of heaven and man in the great Zhou dynasty, is the strongest. His strength can also be compared with these four people. In the past, there were 5 heavenly beings, but now, there are 6 people. Xiao Zhantian proved his strength with the lives of 2 heavenly beings. He is also the number 1 in the world today. Go up to the strong. Fellow Daoist Chang Kong, you are the only one among us who uses a sword. What do you think of fellow Daoist Xiao's sword just now? Old man Tianji asked while stroking his beard. Chang Kongwuji looked excited and couldn't help but replied, the peak of swordsmanship is still above me. With this Yuan Shen sword, Xiao Zhantian's swordsmanship level is already above mine. The sword of the soul, the sword of the soul, this is a path that Chang Kongwuji has never thought of before. He never thought that the soul can actually turn into a sword to kill the enemy. Xiao Zhantian used the sword of the soul today to killing Shang Guanao undoubtedly made Chang Kongwuji see the way forward. In just a moment, Chang Kongwuji had countless inspirations in his heart. He was originally a talented person, and his talent in swordsmanship was unparalleled in the world. Just a little bit of training can achieve enlightenment. Although he cannot kill enemies out of his body like Xiao Zhantian, he has a new understanding of how to use the power of his soul. Chang Kongwuji is very confident. He only needs to retreat for a period of time. The realm of swordsmanship can be further improved. He has stayed in this realm for decades, and now he finally sees the way forward, and he is naturally very excited. In addition to Chang Kongwuji, other heavenly beings also have a new understanding of this battle. Wuwuji, the exceptions are all about the soul. Before this, everyone knew that only by reaching the realm of shattered void can the soul come out of the body, but no one knew how to break through to the realm of shattered void. But at this moment, many heavenly beings guess, maybe it is not that the soul can leave the body after reaching the realm of shattered void. It is that only by cultivating the soul to a certain level can it break through to the realm of shattered void. The relationship between the two is completely reversed. If you want to understand this, many heavenly beings have seen the way forward, and they can't wait to go back to retreat to verify their conjectures. If the conjecture is true, they will definitely be able to go one step further. Many heavenly beings lamented that today was indeed not in vain. Just these martial arts enlightenment is more precious than any treasure in the world, even mountains of gold and silver cannot buy it. And all of this was brought to them by Xiao Zhantian. Many heavenly beings looked at Xiao Zhantian, and saw Xiao Zhantian volleying in the sky, flying up, flying higher and higher. The sword intent surrounding him became stronger again. What's going on here? Could it be that Xiao Zhantian is about to break through again? It's terrible, it's terrible, it's about to break through again. Is it possible that he wants to break through to the realm of shattered void in one fell swoop? Impossible. It has been less than a year since Xiao Zhantian broke through to the unity of heaven and man. It is impossible for Xiao Zhantian to break through to the realm of shattered void. It's the sword intention, such a sharp sword intention. Xiao Zhantian's swordsmanship has become stronger again, and he has gained new insights. Fighting to support fighting, killing to prove the truth, Xiao Zhan was born to be a peerless swordsman who would rise in countless fights. The more he fights, the faster his level grows. Every time he wins, he gets stronger. Now I am even more suspicious that he is the reincarnation of Emperor Biwen. Otherwise, how could anyone in the world break through the realm as easily as eating and drinking? There will never be such a monster in this world. Many masters of heavenly beings are the first-class monsters in the world, and all of them are peerless monsters that are hard to find just one among hundreds of millions of people. But compared to Xiao Zhantian, their talents were much weaker. This was unacceptable to them. Being in the same era as such a peerless monster, all their glory will be dimmed. Xiao Zhantian had no time to pay attention to the thoughts of many heavenly beings. He was receiving the mission reward. The mission to kill Shang Guan'ao has been released for a long time. Xiao Wuji released it on the night he killed the Ghost Emperor's 7 Soul Eaters. It was only completed today. Ding, it was detected that the host killed the demon sect Suanzun Shang Guan'ao and completed the mission of Fall of Heaven and Man. Do you want to receive the reward? Receive. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining the full level of Dehi Sword Intent. The rewards are being distributed and have been completed. Boom. The moment the electronic sound ended, Xiao Zhantian felt his mind clear, and an incomparably vast sword intent emerged from his heart. The area of the Danshan suddenly expanded several times, and the true energy in the Danshan increased tenfold. Above. The true energy flowing in the meridians in the body automatically turns into sword energy, flowing in every inch of flesh and blood in Xiao Zhantian's body. Crash! Crash! The sound of a river flowing in the void. I saw the people around Xiao Zhantian. The sword intent spread out and turned into countless sword qi. The sword qi swirled around and gathered together to form a rushing river. The water of the river came up from the sky and covered the sky and the sun. Every drop of river water was a ray of sword qi. It can easily kill the most powerful masters. The Dehi sword intent can fight the sky. It can kill gods. It is infinitely powerful and terrifying. Under the indoctrination of the system, Xiao Zhantian's understanding of the Dehi sword intent reached full level in an instant. Not only his skill it has skyrocketed, and the realm of swordsmanship is also better than before. Xiao Wuji feels that his overall strength has increased several times. If it were Xiao Wuji now, it would be easier and simpler to kill Gang Xiang and Shang Guan'ao. Looking at the sword energy swimming around with a thought in Xiao Wuji's mind, the river of sword energy rushed towards his chest, and finally 2.2 merged with himself. When the river of sword energy dissipated, the sword intent that enveloped the surroundings also completely dissipated. The gods around him felt relaxed. He breathed a sigh of relief. The sense of oppression brought by Xiao Zhantian to them was really too strong. Yes, I gained a lot from this trip. Xiao Wuji felt the powerful power in his body and was extremely satisfied. In this battle at Daliang, he not only killed the 7-sword king Xiao Hung and defeated the Xiao family of Daliang, but also killed the rigid elephant of Bodhi Temple and broke the sky-supporting pillar of Bodhi Temple. There is even an additional gain, Suanzun Shang Guan'ao. Without Shang Guan'ao, a powerful man who unites nature and man, the strength of the demon sect has been greatly weakened. When the people of the demon sect know the news of Shang Guan'ao's death, they will definitely be heartbroken. I can't help myself. But this is what Shang Guan'ao asked for. Who asked him to meddle in other people's business? It was obviously a battle between Xiao Wuji and Gang Xiang, but he insisted on interfering in it, so that he lost his life in vain. All he can say is okay, it's hard to persuade the damn ghost. Shang Guan'ao is looking for trouble and seeking death. This is his fate. Xiao Wuji followed the way of heaven and sent him on his way. This is a supreme merit.